very word of God. It's vital. In Psalm 119, the psalmist asks, how can a man keep his way pure? It says by taking heed to the word of the Lord. So please instruct them in the word of God. There's nothing that the Bible doesn't address, all right? The Bible has an answer for everything. It is the answer. So the best counseling resource you have at your disposal is the Word of God. Make sure that you point your students towards Him. He's the one that can help. A second thing to keep in mind is to point them towards growth in the Lord. Point them towards growth in the Lord. You want them to grow in the knowledge of Jesus Christ. You want them to grow closer to Him. Colossians 1 talks about how Colossians chapter 1 talks about how we need to make sure that our flock or our body is perfected in the knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's the goal. You want them to be close to Jesus. You want them to look to Jesus. You want them to look to Jesus for the answer. You want them to be in the Word of God as you counsel. You'll never go wrong if you point them to Jesus Christ and His Word. Please, I stress to you, don't go to other sources. Don't go to your ideas or your wisdom or your handling of things. Look in the Word of God first. Point them to Jesus first. The reality is, and this is not being rude or harsh or brash or anything like that. The reality is we're not that good. We're not the answer. We are not sufficient to their needs. Okay? We need to understand that. Only Jesus Christ fills the void in their life. Only His Word will fill the void in their life. So please, make sure you point them to God as you counsel. I've given you some sources, some resources for counseling. There's some professional materials, but there's also some practical ones. I've placed them on our main page there for the class. I want you to review those. Okay, those are for you to keep. I'm sure that you also have other resources that are available to you. Please keep those in mind in your library, all right, in your repertoire as you may have a need for some professional sources. But the goal here is when it comes to counseling students is to be available, to be open to their needs, to be a good listener. To respond after you have prayed, to respond in a biblical sense. Please follow Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean just on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll straighten your paths. Make sure that you're practicing that with your students. As we close today, in your discussion forum for this week, you were supposed to look back onto your life and think, what was it like when I was a teenager? What was going through my mind and my heart? What was going through my body? What was I thinking about that ever pressed? What were some of my greatest needs? I don't ever want you to lose touch with what it's like to be a student. Okay, empathetically, you're going to need to reach them. You're going to have to be able at times to recall what it was like to be a student. Say, I understand, and I've been there. Okay, you have. If you're a student minister, that means you've grown from being a teenager to an adult. So you have been there before. Maybe you can relate to them in that manner. So please don't ever forget. Don't ever lose touch with what it was like to be a student. I think oftentimes we do. We forget that they're kids. We forget that they're human. We forget that they do kid things and they make kid decisions. And their judgment sometimes comes through the mind and heart of a 14 or 15-year-old. Which also just gives us more reason to show grace and mercy and the love of Jesus Christ. That's your job. That's your goal, to point them to Jesus, to love them like Jesus, okay? So enjoy your students. Counsel them in a way that honors the Lord. Make sure you have standards. Make sure that you do all that you can to counsel with integrity. I encourage all guys and girls, if you have an office at the church, make sure you've got a window in your office. Make sure you have an open door policy. Never counsel those females alone, guys. Never counsel those men alone, girls. Make sure that you have accountability, okay? And please get your parents involved. This is a family ministry. It's a family ministry. This past weekend, I spoke to our students at our church where I get to serve, and I asked them some of the things that they were thinking about. And the answers were way different as they grew up. Some of the younger ones, they didn't have a care in the world or a need in the world. But as they got older, some of their spiritual needs started hitting in. Some of them started to have, a need for direction, a need for clarity. Some of them started talking about the college needs that they have or the decisions that they're going to make about their jobs. Some of them had relationships relationship issues. But one thing that I noticed about all of our students, very few of them are looking to the Word of God as their answer. Listen, our goal is to point them to Jesus. Okay, so as you train and as you lead, make sure that you help them see that there's nothing greater than following Jesus with their life. Please teach them that. Counsel them in that manner, because I want our students to do the same. I want our students to pray and ask God to help them with every decision that they make. Next week, you're going to have a project due. You're supposed to be interviewing some students and some parents. You need to look. Remember, in that same light, students won't always respond with a godly answer. Parents won't respond with a godly answer. That gives you room to grow. That you should be encouraged by it, not totally discouraged, but encouraged by some of their answers, because that gives you a job to do. That gives you an opportunity to reach out to them and minister to them with the Word of God. So have those turned in. Hope you're enjoying the class. Remember, if you have any questions, you can email me at any time. I usually respond within 24 hours or 48 hours. I'll get back to you, okay? But I hope you're enjoying the class, and keep up the good work. I'll see you next week. God bless you.